My Lords, these three short amendments bring together some very big debates around this bill, much as the overall bill has been welcomed from all sides of the House. I state my position here as a feminist, as I've been since age 5, and that is a trans-inclusive feminist. Now, I'm going to begin with what I think is the easy amendment of this group, Amendment 185, in the name of the noble Baroness Lady Lister of Berdeset, also backed by Baroness Hodgson and the Right Reverend Prelate. And in joining up government policy, ensuring that any strategy to end violence against women and girls is thought of in the guidance around this bill. As the noble Baroness Lady Lister said, this is a bottom line, very simple approach. It's asking that government thinking be joined up, not be split into silos. And I think if we look at the Istanbul Convention, which the government is very explicitly trying to comply with through this legislation, its wording says, and I quote, "To promote and protect the right for everyone, particularly women, to live free from violence in both the public and the private sphere." And I think this amendment very much is in line with that Istanbul Convention approach. We come now to Amendment 173 in the name of the noble lady Baroness Gale, and I very much agree with and support the general broad intention of this amendment, particularly the first part of it. I think it is important to ensure that this bill is not gender neutral. The bill must make it clear that domestic violence and abuse is perpetrated overwhelmingly by men against women. I am indebted to the Women Against Rape and Support Not Separation coalitions for drawing my attention to figures from the Office for National Statistics from 2018 in the year ending March. 92% of defendants in domestic abuse-related prosecutions were men, while 83% of victims were women. 95% of calls to domestic abuse hotlines were made by women. Gender neutrality is at risk of hiding the nature of violence, the nature of our patriarchal society, and enabling perpetrators, sometimes in tit-for-tat claims, to then suggest they are victims themselves when they are actually the perpetrators. However, in terms of the particular wording of Amendment 173, I am not comfortable with the final phrase in that amendment, which identifies domestic abuse as a subset of violence against women and girls, which is where I come to Amendment 186 in the name of the noble Lord Paddock, with whom I also agree with his broad intention, because the fact is there are significant numbers of male victims of domestic abuse. I share with others the concerns about expressing that statistic, and that statistic, as contained within the amendment, is very much contested. Although I would acknowledge that the figures that I read out earlier may indeed be influenced by the lack of understanding about domestic abuse against male victims and by social stereotypes. Nonetheless, I think we need to, in this bill, not be gender neutral. As the noble Baroness Lady Featherstone said, the government is trying to steer clear of gendering this bill. But we are a society in which gender is a major characteristic that has huge impacts on people's power, access to resources, and risk of domestic abuse. And if this bill does not recognise that fact, then I would suggest that it's failing to meet our obligations under the Istanbul Convention. Thank you, my lords.